Mhm.
Should we leap through and then go back?
Yes, I think so. I think that's the way to do it. Let me just briefly tell the people who will be watching on video that today we are proceeding on to Dante's Paradiso, Canto 30. And with that, we will have Dee Dee read us the Dorothy Sayers kind of synopsis of it. Okay,
Okay,
Sheila.
she titles this commentary at the beginning of the cantos, the story.
Mm-hmm.
The angelic circles fade one by one from sight, and Dante, turning once more to look on Beatrice, finds her beauty so transfigured as to defeat all his power to describe it. She tells him they have entered the Empyrean and that he will behold the angels and in the guise of the flesh, the souls of the blessed. A flash of light enwraps him, first blinding him, then leaving his sight so strengthened that nothing now can vanquish it. He sees first a river of light in which he bathes his eyes, and straightway beholds the saints in heaven seated on thrones, rising in tears, which form the petals of a snow-white rose. Beatrice points to the vacant throne awaiting the Emperor Henry II and foretells the fate of the soul of Clement V. That's it.
Okay, very good. All right, so we're going to read. We're not going to do the Italian today because we don't have enough Italian readers. Chiara cannot be with us, and neither can Masi. So with that, we will begin. Let me look at the chat. Oh, it's a good thing I looked at it because I'm the first reader. All right, here we go. So I'm reading the Wordsworth version, Canto 30 of Paradiso. Perchance 6,000 miles remote from us is glowing the 6th hour. And now the world inclines its shadow almost to a level when the mid-heaven begins to make itself so deep to us that here and there a star ceases to shine so far down as this depth. And as advances bright exceedingly, the handmaid of the sun, the heaven is closed, light after light to the most beautiful. Not otherwise the triumph, which forever plays round about the point that vanquished me, seeming enclosed by what itself encloses. Little by little from my vision faded, whereat to turn mine eyes on Beatrice, my seeing nothing and my love constrained me. If what has hitherto been said of her were all concluded in a single praise, scant would it be to serve the present turn. Next, please.
Not only does the beauty I beheld transcend ourselves, but truly I believe its maker only may enjoy it all. Vanquished do I confess me by this passage, more than by problem of his theme was ever, or come the comic or the tragic poet. For as the sun, the sight that trembles most, even so the memory of that sweet smile my mind depriveth of its very self. From the first day that I beheld her face, in this life to the moment of this look, the sequence of my song has ne'er been severed. But now perforce this sequence must desist, from following her beauty with my verse, as every artist at his uttermost, such as I leave her to a greater fame than any of my trumpet, which is bringing its arduous matter to a final close. With voice and gesture of a perfect leader, she recommenced. We from the greatest body have issued to the heaven that is pure light, light intellectual replete with love, love of true good replete with ecstasy, ecstasy that transcendeth every sweetness. Here shalt thou see the one host and the other of paradise, and one in these same aspects, which at the final judgment thou shalt see. Next, please.
Even as a sudden lightning that disperses the visual spirit so that it deprives the eye of impress from the strongest objects. Thus round about me flashed a living light, and left me swayed round with such a veil of its effulgence that I nothing saw. Ever the love which quieted this heaven welcomes into itself with such salute, to make the candle ready for its flame. No sooner had within me these brief words an entrance found, than I perceived myself to be uplifted over by own power. And I with vision new rekindled me, such that no light whatever is so pure, but that mine eyes were fortified against it. And light I saw in fashion of a river, fulvid with its effulgence, twixt two banks depicted with an admirable spring. Out of this rich river issued living sparks, and all sides sank down into the flowers, like unto rubies that are set in gold. And then, as if inebriate with the odours, they plunged again into the wondrous torrent, and as one entered, issued forth another. The high desire that now inflames and moves thee to have intelligence of what thou seest, pleased it me all the more it swells. But of this water it behoves thee drink, before so great a thirst in thee be slaked. Thus said to me the sunshine of my eyes. Next, please.
And added, the river and the topazes going in and out, and the laughing of the herbage, are all of their truth foreshadowing prefaces. Not that these things are difficult in themselves, but the deficiency is on thy side, for yet thou hast not vision so exalted. There is no babe that leaps so suddenly with face toward the milk if he'll wake much later than his usual custom is, as I did, that I might make better mirrors still of mine eyes, down stooping to the wave which flows, that we therein be better made. And even as the penthouse of my eyelids drank of it, it forthwith appeared to me out of its length to be transformed to round. Then as the folk who have been under masks seem other than before, if they divest the semblance, not their own, they disappeared in. Thus, into the greater pomp were changed for me the flowers and the sparks, so that I saw both of the courts of heaven made manifest. Next.
O splendor of God, by means of which I saw the lofty triumph of the realm veracious. Give me the power to say how it I saw. There is a light above, which visible makes the Creator unto every creature, who only in beholding him is peace. And it expands itself in circular form to such extent that its circumference would be too large a girdle for the sword. The semblance of it is all made of rays, reflected from the top of the primal motion, which takes therefrom vitality and power. Next, please.
And as a hill in water at its base mirrors itself as if to see its beauty, when affluent most in verdure and in flowers, so ranged aloft all round about the light, Mirrored I saw in more ranks than 1,000, all who above there have from us returned. And if the lowest row collect within it, so great a light, how vast the amplitude is of this rose in its extremest leaves. My vision in the vastness and the height lost not itself, but comprehended all, the quantity and quality of that gladness. Next, please.
There near and far, nor art, nor take away. For there where God immediately doth govern, the natural law is nought, in nought is relevant. Into the yellow of the rose eternal that spreads and multiplies and breathes an odor of praise unto the ever vernal sun. Vernal, yeah. As one who silent is and fain would speak, me Beatrice drew on and said, Behold, of the white stones how vast the convent is. Converted. Yep. Behold how vast the circuit of our city. Behold our seats so filled to overflowing, that here henceforward are few people wanting. Next, please. Oops.
On that great throne whereon thine eyes are fixed for the crown's sake already placed upon it, before thou suppest at this wedding feast shall sit the soul that is to be Augustus on earth, of noble Henry, who shall come to redress Italy ere she be ready. Blind covetousness that casts its spell upon you has made you like unto the little child who dies of hunger and drives off the nurse. And in the sacred forum then shall be a prefect, such that openly or covert on the same road, he will not walk with him, but long of God he will not be endured in holy office. He shall be thrust down where Simon Magus is for his deserts, and make of him Algana lower go. Is she saying that Henry won't rule for long?
You're muted. You're muted, Duncan.
No.
That's my interpretation of it,
Yeah,
Sheila.
he come
Seems-
to redress
seems-
Italy ere she be ready. So Italy won't be ready for a good ruler, just ruler.
Let me
That
go
is 138, 137, and 36.
on that great throne wherein thine eyes are fixed for the crown's sake already placed. Before thou suppest at this wedding shall sit the soul that is to be Augustus on earth, of noble Henry who shall come to redress Italy ere she be ready. Okay, well, let's go up to the top and let's wind our way back to this particular issue.
Yeah, I'm wondering about the white rose. I didn't get to Barolini. I was reading 29 and I wasn't reading 30.
Yeah, I think that the whole rose thing is just, Dante attempting, as we're going to find out, he's going to go through one of his, this is too much. I can't really explain this, but I'll do what I can.
Yeah. Do you see in Sayers, there's a diagram of the celestial rose. I could hold it up if you want to do.
I can
Speaker
probably go to here. I'm going to have to.
Might be easier to see that this diagram is not.
Let me go here. I'll go to commento.
Yeah, the wording is very tiny, but it's the yellow of the sempiternal rose is in the middle. And then closest to the rose are little children before baptism.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised. Barolini does not have a rose diagram,
Hmm.
but it's okay.
Maybe you can get Sayers, or you can't get that. I can hold it up, but I can't both hold it and tell you
No, it's
what's on
okay.
it.
I'll go Dante,
Around the outer edge are St. John, Peter, Mary, and under Mary are the Jewish matriarchs, starting with Eve, Rachel, Sarah, Rebecca, Judith, Ruth. Those are all in Mary's petal. And Adam has a petal, and Moses has a petal. And
Okay.
let's see who else has a petal.
Oh,
Anne.
you know,
There must
here's
be Saint
here.
Anne. Anne, is there a Saint Anne?
There is. It was Our Lady's mother.
Oh, okay, and she has a
Okay.
petal.
Here,
And
I
John
can
the
show you this.
Baptist has a petal.
Mhm.
I have a dumb question. And Lucy, who is Lucy?
Oh, we came across Lucy before as well.
Saint Lucia, maybe?
Here, let me do the share
She has
screen.
a petal.
There you go. Here is a diagram. Unfortunately, I cannot show you the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't
But see,
say who is there.
it doesn't say who's there, but
Okay.
it does give somebody's idea of what the rose looks like.
Yeah, you know what? In Barolina, she talks about Geryon being the truth, and Geryon is an eagle, and God being the truth.
Yeah,
I need to look to find that phrase, but apparently, that's in Dante's view of what God is.
I just Googled Saint Lucy, and she is the patron saint of the blind and those with eye trouble.
Uh-huh. And that's what Joyce named his daughter, Lucia.
Lucia, that's right.
Yeah. And in one of the circles, there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 circles under that round petal on top. So there are 9, I guess, 9 circles. And the fourth one down is blessed of the old law. So those must be the Bible figures, the good figures in the Bible. And under John the Baptist, who is on one of the top petals, is St. Francis, St. Benedict, St. Augustine, and other saintly men. And then on the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth circle down, including the petal, saints of the new law. And those are all that are named in this diagram. Under John, the saints, including other saintly men, and under Mary, Hebrew women. Beatrice, Sayers has an interesting comment here about what Dante is saying. She says, in the allegory, only God can fully know and fully comprehend the beauty and truth of the most sublime doctrines of theology. And in the story, Beatrice is about to return to her throne in the Imperium, and no mortal can express the glory of a blessed spirit, for it is derived from the vision of God. It doesn't, is Beatrice in the beginning, in the middle? We'll have to read the next chapter to find out, maybe.
Yeah, like I said before, by the time we get to up here, I personally am less concerned with the details.
Well,
Because
it's just, it's like he's painting a picture, you know. The other things seem under some control in terms of making a structure of it that we can get our handle
Mhm.
on.
Right, right. But his whole point is we can't really get a handle on it.
Yeah,
That he's going to do what he can, but he knows he's going to fail.
here's one on the white rose. Shall I read this? From Sayers?
Sure, of course.
The circle, well, the white rose, the circle of light, which is the light of God's glory, forms the yellow of the vast white rose, which Dante next beholds. Its petals, rising in more than 1,000 tiers, are the thrones of the blessed, whom Dante can perceive despite the distance, for he is now beyond the limitations of time and space. The
Mhm.
rose in medieval literature was the symbol of earthly love. Dante's white rose is the symbol of divine love.
Mhm. All right. We're looking at starting with line 19. Not only does the beauty I beheld transcend ourselves, but I truly believe its maker only may enjoy it all. Vanquished do I confess me by this passage. More than by the problem of his theme was ever o'ercome the comic or the tragic poet. For as the sun, the sight that trembles most, even so the memory of that sweet smile, my mind depriveth of its very self.
Yeah, so he like knows he can't go any further in describing
Mm-hmm.
what it is.
Mm-hmm. Which, of course, is kind of the ultimate description.
Would you think of just going on and reading 30, 31?
Why?
I'm kind of eager to go back to the beginning. And I think if I don't know, I feel like I don't have good questions, important questions in my own mind about 30, but other people might.
Well, I would suggest that we go and we restrain ourselves a bit
All right.
and then go on. Why?
No, all
Well,
right, I said, I didn't say why.
okay. Oh, okay. Okay. So, basically we got this whole thing where we got time and space are collapsed into each other. Because of course, what do the saints and the angels and God himself need with time and space? Since they're in the eternal all the time. So, and then Dante is saying, under these conditions where there's no real time and space, my powers of description are kind of defeated. So I'm just going to make a few attempts here to give you some idea.
Yeah, the last 3 verses is what I was doing. Blind covetousness, start with 139, that casts its spell upon you has made you unto the little child who dies of hunger and drives off the nurse. So I'm in a rush to move on.
Okay. That's a interesting interpretation of that, and probably correct. Because don't we do that all the time anyway?
Mm.
Oh,
You know, particularly what is America about but rushing on to the new?
and having things.
And having things only to get the things and then be ready to get new things.
Mhm. Terrible.
And you know, if we remember correctly, I believe it was in 29, we have the thing where Dante is looking at the saints and the angels, and they're not paying any attention to all that stuff at all. They're just focused on the Imperium.
Exactly.
They're just focused there. They're getting all that knowledge directly. And there's that whole discussion that human beings use discursive thought. We have to cut things into pieces in order to make distinctions between things. All right, let's go back up. Okay, so are all of us up to line 27 now? We've all got the idea that Dante's admitting that, hey, I can't really describe this, but you know,
He's
we are
describing it one last time.
Yeah, I think is it when he talks about the comic and the tragic poets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think what he's saying there is there's no style I can use. Like comic poets use kind of a less elevated idiom, and tragic poets a more elevated idiom, and nothing is adequate here. So he's really emphasizing that there just aren't words that are adequate to what he's trying to convey.
Yeah, for as the sun, the sight that trembles most, even so the memory of that sweet smile, my mind depriveth of its very self. So he does what he usually does, which is he turns to Beatrice. And it blots his discursive mind out.
He says that from the first day that I beheld her face in this life to the moment of this look, the sequence of my song has never been severed. That's love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But now
Never
perforce the sequence must desist, for following her beauty with my verse as every artist at his uttermost. So I think that's more the same.
It is really. And such as I leave her to a greater fame than any of my trumpet, which is bringeth all this matter to a final close.
Okay, so it sounds like he's decided that he should let it be. He doesn't have to, but of course he won't let it be.
She's going to go back into the rose, isn't she, to be with the others?
Mm-hmm.
I think
she's only ever been separated by the rose by his mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
"37, with voice and gesture of a perfect leader, she recommenced. We from the greatest body have issued to the heaven that is pure light. Light intellectual replete with love. Love of the true good replete with ecstasy. Ecstasy that transcendeth every sweetness."
So read the next three lines too.
Okay, go ahead and read it.
Okay, that's what she is saying.
Mhm.
Here shalt thou see the one host and the other of paradise, and one in the same aspects which at the final judgment thou shalt see.
Okay. I think that's actually a change of theme right there, though, Sheila. I think the line 42 is the conclusion of one thought that Beatrice is given. This whole the 40 through 42, love intellectual replete, light intellectual replete with love, love of the true good, replete with ecstasy, ecstasy that transcendeth every sweetness. So I'm interpreting that as her saying that when intellectual is full of love, and the love is of the true good, that leads to ecstasy, and it's an ecstasy that transcendeth every sweetness.
And I think the next three lines is here you will see God.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I don't think it's God that she's referring to here. I think she's who was it he wanted to see? He wants to see Adam, right?
Well, Adam is not that close to the center.
Okay, so he wanted to see, maybe it was Benedict. He wanted to see his way back in an earlier canto. He said, "Can I see what you will look like after the judgment day?" And whoever he was talking to said, "You're going to have to wait, but you will see it before you leave paradise. You will see."
Well, this three parts of it. One host and the other of paradise, and one in the same aspects.
I'm trying to roll back to my notes. Go here. Go here. Yeah, I can't.
Sayers is talking about what Dante couldn't see here. I can read that.
Okay.
No living being can see God. Therefore, if the vision is to be made credible, something analogous to the separating of the soul from the body must take place. It seems more probable that the kindling of his new sight is a further symbol of Thomas' doctrine that the state of blessedness is reached by means of vision, whence come the love of the soul for God, and from such love, joy that transcends all delight. And in the story, Beatrice is about to return to her throne in the Imperium. And no mortal can express the glory of a blessed spirit, for it is derived from the vision of God. I think we should read 31.
Yeah, we can just start reading the Inferno too. We can
Yeah.
put off the reading of these last three.
No,
just
I
go
have
back
to
to
read
Inferno.
31 and 32 and 33 before I do the Inferno.
I see. Okay, so we get the rose. So Henry,
So the bright light affects him once more. Mm.
Yeah. And then later in this particular canto, he has another diatribe about false leaders in the church.
Yeah.
And a little prayer that, God will dump the bad guy and put Henry in his place. Yeah, it's very interesting. Dante, even at this late stage, is wanting a heaven on earth scenario. In spite of 39 through 41, this is really good. Blind covetousness that cast its spell upon you has made you like unto the little child who dies of hunger and drives off the nurse. I don't think it's out of line to say that this is also a sign of the blind covetousness, is that Dante wants God to hurry up and dump that guy that's on the throne now and put Henry, who Dante thinks is a better choice, on the throne. So there's he continues to employ quite a healthy dose of irony.
What does the last verses there mean?
For long of God, he will not be endured in holy office. He shall
The
be
one before it too.
And in the sacred forum then shall be a perfect such that
A
open.
prefect.
Prefect. Such.
Okay, so what is a prefect? I gotta.
Some kind of leader, someone in charge.
I think so. I think so.
Yeah, I think he's using it of the Pope here.
Uh-huh. Pope Boniface was born in Anagni, and that's Alagna, apparently.
Prefect, according to notes here.
And Boniface is going to hell soon. When Clement comes, Boniface will slide further down the opening in the rock, pushing Nicholas before him. And Beatrice confirms this prophecy.
Yeah. So,
So they
Yeah,
will
that's
both
back in
be
in
consigned to where they.
in 19 of the Inferno. There, Boniface is mentioned there in Canto 19.
Right,
So,
that he will end up there.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
this is so interesting that
comforted.
Dante wrote that while Boniface was still alive.
He wrote it while he was still alive, but it wasn't published till later.
Ah,
But I'm reading Hollander's note on this. Hollander, I find myself kind of in agreement with Hollander, where Hollander is kind of saying, you know, it's kind of odd that here's Dante right up in the Imperium, and he's still concerned about earthly things, albeit the earthly things he's concerned about is who's on the, who's the Pope.
well, I guess that's what Beatrice is saying. He's not ready yet.
Well,
no,
Hollander
according-
is actually criticizing Dante for putting those words in Beatrice's mouth.
Ah,
okay.
That he's using this is a place where he's using Beatrice. This is odd. He's using Beatrice as his puppet.
but he can be saying he knows he's not ready yet. Just because he has Beatrice saying it doesn't mean that it's her and not him who is foretelling this and describing this.
The notes here in a different book that I have, Modibon, 136, that shall sate the soul. That is Henry VII, who was emperor 1308 to 13. He was crowned in Rome. He died near Siena in August 13. But the important bit, when he came to Italy in 1310, Dante welcomed him as a messianic, even Christ-like figure who would restore the Roman Empire and bring back peace, justice, and law, if only the Guelphs, and especially Florence, would accept his rule. And then the prefect was Pope Clement V, who had approved Henry's expedition in Italy, but who then began to reassert papal claims. And the prophecy predicts his death not long afterwards in 1314 and his eternal damnation for simony in lines 145 to 47. And verse 48. Yep. Error. So,
And what is Alagna?
Pope Boniface VIII, who died in 1303, from an ANAG, and I assume there's a variation, who will be Clemens, the previous fellow there, predecessor among the Simonic popes in hell. He's going to be, what you were talking about, John, Inferno 19.
Okay.
So that's obviously where Boniface is from.
Okay. But I think the major point here is that Dante is still complaining.
But he's making Beatrice file the complaint. He's putting the words in her mouth, and she really should be above this.
Yeah, well, he should be above
striving
it
to get
also.
above it. He's striving to be above it, but she should. It's not really fair to her
Yeah,
for him to make her say these things.
yeah. Here, let me read this thing from Hollander. So he's talking about this particular passage, and Hollander says, for an attempt to save this passage despite itself,
Ah,
see Bosco Reggio, who concede that Dante probably should not have turned aside from contemplating things eternal and divine for such a feverish concern with mere contingency, compounding that fault by putting this earth-centered speech in the mouth of holy Beatrice, and as her last utterance at that. One can hear awareness of centuries of complaint behind their words. To be just, one must admit that this concern with earthly things seems inconsistent with the usual sort of piety. No one ever said or should have that Dante is usual in any respects at all. So um, I'm glad to see that Hollander is speaking in my place here. And my theme that this seems really weird that we're so far up in the Imperium and Dante is still bitching about things on earth.
He couldn't resist it.
He couldn't help himself.
it would go along with what I'm learning about Krishna, because for Krishna, everything is okay. In the next many millions of years, there'll be a whole new world. So there's no changing the situation. Dante can't, even Beatrice can't, can only look at it and accept it.
Uh-huh. I think one of the difference though between the Krishna version and this is that Dante's the way that the heaven is constructed. Because remember at the very beginning of this canto, we have that whole thing of time and space is collapsed. And we have the image of, we've got the prima mobile in the center of the rose, and we have all the real saints and angels and all that gathered around in the petals of the rose in this eternal time and space. And so actually, in a certain sense, the judgment has already happened. And there's nothing really to improve. It's just that there's so many souls, human souls, that haven't realized that.
Well, with Krishna, it's just all going to happen again. It may not get any better.
Mm-hmm. And in Dante, in the philosophy under Dante, it's already better. It never has been anything but better and perfect.
And I think Krishna thinks that too.
Okay. All right. It's 154. I'm satisfied for the moment with our reading of Canto 30, but if someone else has any qualms or points, I'm more than ready to hear them. And you have anything to add?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay, how about you, John?
No,
Okay, so
just
shall
the
we
sound of Sanders. I don't know if
We
the
can't hear it.
background noise is coming through or not.
No,
No,
not at all.
not at all. Yeah, I can't hear it at all. So let us accede to Sheila's or Dee Dee's request at this point and read Canto 31.
Yay.
Yay. Okay. And I guess we keep the same reading order, and I guess I'm the first reader of Canto 31.
Should
And
I
off we
read
go.
this introduction again, or should we?
Oh,
wait
yeah,
till next
yeah.
time?
Excuse me. Yes,
You
read
do
the- Yes, please.
Dante contemplates the snow-white rose, filled rank upon rank with the souls of the redeemed, to whom the angels, descending like a swarm of bees, minister peace and fervent love. Dante is so moved by the contrast between our world and this region of bliss that he falls into a stupor of silence and amazement. Turning then to hear Beatrice speak of the celestial scenes, he finds her gone, and in her place a soul of extreme benevolence of aspect. This is Saint Bernard, who has come to lead Dante to the vision of God, as Beatrice has prepared his understanding in readiness for this final experience. Looking up, Dante has his first glimpse of Beatrice enthroned and utters his words of farewell. Saint Bernard bids him to look even higher, and Dante beholds, at the extreme edge of the rose, the glory of the Virgin, attended by countless angels. That's it.
Okay. All right. Are we ready to read now?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. In fashion then, as of a snow white rose, displayed itself to me the saintly host, whom Christ in his own blood has made his bride. But the other host, that flying sees and sings the glory of him who doth enamor it, and the goodness that created it so noble. Even as a swarm of bees that sinks and flowers one moment, and the next returns again to where its labor is to sweetness turned, sank into the great flower that is adorned with leaves so many, and hence reascended to where its love abideth evermore. Their faces had they all of living flame, and wings of gold, and all the rest so white, no snow unto that limit doth attain. From bench to bench, into the flower descending, they carried something of the peace and ardor which by the fanning of their flanks they won. Nor did the interposing twixt the flowers, and what was o'er it of such plenitude, of flying shapes impede the sight and splendor. Because the light divine so penetrates the universe according to its merit, that naught can be an obstacle against it. This realm, secure and full of gladsomeness, crowded with ancient people and with modern, unto one mark had all its look and love. Next, please.
O trinal light, that in a single star, sparkling upon their sight, so satisfies them. Look down upon our tempest here below. If the barbarians coming from some region that every day by Hellas is covered, revolving with her son, whom she delights in, behold Rome and all her noble works, were wonderstruck what time the Lateran above all mortal things was eminent. I who to the divine had from the human, from time unto eternity had come, from Florence to a people just and sane, with what amazement must I have been filled, truly between this and the joy. It was my pleasure not to hear and to be mute. As in a pilgrim who delighteth him in gazing around the temples of his vow, and hopes someday to retell how it was. So through the living light my way pursuing, directed I mine eyes o'er all the ranks, now up, now down, and now all round about. Faces I saw of charity persuasive, embellished by his light and their own smile, and attitudes adorned with every grace. The general form of paradise already my glance had comprehended as a whole, in no part hitherto remaining fixed. And round I turned me with rekindled wish, my lady to interrogate of things, concerning which my mind was in suspense. Next, please.
One thing I meant, another answered me. I thought I should see Beatrice, and saw an old man habited like the glorious people. Overflowing was he in his eyes and cheeks with joy benign, in attitude of pity, and to a tender father is becoming. And she, where is she? Instantly I said, whence he, to put an end to thy desire, me Beatrice had sent from mine own place. And if thou lookest up to the third round of the first rank, again shalt thou behold her. Upon the throne her merits have assigned her. Without reply, I lifted up mine eyes and saw her as she made herself a crown, reflecting from herself the eternal rays. Not from that region which the highest thunders is any mortal eye so far removed. In whatsoever sea its deepest sinks. As there from Beatrice my sight, but this was nothing unto me, because her image descended not to me by medium blood. O Lady, thou in whom my hope is strong, and who for my salvation didst endure in hell to leave the imprint of thy feet. Of whatsoever thing I have beheld, as coming from thy power and from thy goodness, I recognize the virtue and the grace. Thou from a slave hast brought me unto freedom, by all those ways, by all the expedients, whereby thou hadst the power of doing it. Preserve towards me thy magnificence, so that the soul of mine, which thou hast healed, pleasing to thee, be loosened from the body. Thus I implored, and she, so far away, smiled, as it seemed, and looked once more at me, then unto the eternal fountain turned. Next, please.
And said the old man holy, that thou mayest accomplish perfectly thy journeying whereunto prayer and holy love have sent me. Fly with thine eyes all round about this garden, for seeing it will discipline thy sight farther to mount along the ray divine. And she, the Queen of Heaven, for whom I burn, wholly with love, will grant us every grace, because that I, her faithful Bernard, am. As he who peradventure from Croatia cometh to gaze at our Veronica, who through its ancient fame is never sated, but says in thought, the while it is displayed, my Lord, Christ Jesus, God of every God, now was your semblance made like unto this. Even such was I while gazing at the living charity of the man who in this world by contemplation tasted of that peace. Thou son of grace, this jocund life, began he, will not be known to thee by keeping ever thine eyes below here on the lowest place, but mark the circles to the most remote until thou shalt behold enthroned the queen to whom this realm is subject and devoted. I lifted up mine eyes, and as at morn the oriental part of the horizon surpasses that wherein the sun goes down, thus as if going with mine eyes from vale to mount, I saw a part in that remoteness surpass in splendor all the other front. Next.
And even as there where we await the pole, that Phaeton drove badly, blazes more the light, and is on either side diminished. So likewise, that Pacific oriflamme gleamed brightest in the center, and at each side in equal measure did the flame abate. And at that center with their wings expanded, more than 1,000 jubilant angels saw I, each differing in effulgence and in kind. John?
I saw there at their sports and at their songs a beauty smiling, which the gladness was within the eyes of all the other saints. And if I had in speaking as much wealth as in imagining, I should not dare to attempt the smallest part of its delight. Bernard, as soon as he beheld mine eyes, fixed and intent upon its fervid fervor, his own with such affection turned to her, that it made mine more ardent to behold.
Ba-ba-ba-bum. That's a nice canto.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
Are you happy?
yeah, I would actually keep reading till we got to the end. Like a child who dies of hunger and drives off the nurse. I love it. It's right. I'll just have to do it by myself. Just a few more pages.
uh-huh. Okay, there's that. There's that. There's that. Okay. So 31. So I thought that that Dante was very effective in showing the separation between Beatrice and himself.
Mm.
It was a really nice handoff how that worked.
I think the queen here is Mary.
Yeah, I have no idea.
And Sayers doesn't, she seems to suggest that.
Okay.
There is
Does anybody have any thoughts on why Saint Bernard has such a big role here as opposed to some other saint? I'm not really up on my saints.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the earlier canto. I can't remember the numbers, but we went through that whole thing where Bernard was representing Saint Francis. Anyway, there was a whole thing with the Dominicans and the Franciscans.
There's a long note here on Bernard in Sayers. The famous abbot of the Benedictine order.
Right. And he was the famous abbot of the Benedictine order, but he was actually in the canto, he was kind of promoting Saint Francis. There was that chiasmus where they had a Franciscan monk talking about the head of the Dominicans, which I forget who was the head of the Dominicans, who started the Dominicans.
Dominic, I think.
Dominic? Yeah.
Okay.
I'm looking.
Anyway, that's the best guess I can give for
Yeah.
now, John. We'll have to catch it the next round.
In paradise, he is the symbol of contemplation, whereby man attains the vision of the deity.
Hmm.
and apparently had abundant writings. It doesn't really say why
Mm.
he is singled out.
Oh, here's what I want. Mhm.
He was apparently, his influence was very strong at that time when Dante was writing.
Hmm.
His writing consists of epistles, sermons, and treatises, most of which are characterized by an ardent devotion to the Virgin Mary. So he's used as symbolically.
Mm.
And there is a prayer of his that's famous, apparently, that I don't know which prayer it is. He comes up to in 32 and 33. Notes, images.
Sixty.
Oh. Hmm.
Yeah.
But there's more about Bernard and the Longfellow notes.
Mm-hmm. I think I was actually most attracted to that whole interaction where Bernard points out that Beatrice has, returned to her place in the rose. And then there's that really nice little interaction where she kind of looks from her position in the rose at Dante.
Where are you looking at, Duncan? Oh, yeah. 17 saw her and she made a crown reflective of 70 eternal.
Yeah, without reply, I lifted up mine
Mm.
eyes and saw her as she made herself a crown, reflecting from herself eternal rays.
Mm.
Not from that region which the highest thunders is any mortal eye so far removed, and whatever sea it deepest sinks, as there from Beatrice my sight. But this was nothing unto me, because her image descended not to me by medium blurred. O Lady, thou in whom my hope is strong, and who for my salvation didst endure in hell to leave the imprint of thy feet. So I think that's a really lovely separation. Of course, it's not really a separation, but thou 85, thou from a slave hast brought me unto freedom
Freedom.
in all those ways and by all the expedients whereby thou hadst the power of doing it. Very nice.
Mm.
The whole thing is very nice. It's very,
Yeah.
it's so clear in this particular one as opposed to some of the other cantos.
Yeah, and I know here, thus I implored, and she so far away smiled, as it seemed,
Mhm.
and looked once more at me, then to the eternal fountain turned.
Yeah, that's very lovely. That's
It was
very
really
lovely.
nice.
And I'm going to make probably an outrageous statement, but I think that the reason is he knows they have separated. And in the cantos before this, he was always still kind of conflicted between his not quite earthly kind of love for Beatrice and his desire for paradise. And in this canto, he has clearly been handed over to Bernard, and Beatrice is left. She's no longer going to perform that same role. At least that's how I see it right now.
So it's something else Dante is looking to rather than Beatrice at this point.
Mm-hmm. To put it, I'll put my interpretation of it and what I think your part of your life experience is, Sheila. I think there's probably in all the students that you taught over the years, you probably got the most satisfaction from the students who showed that they had gained some true independence from you as a result of your teaching.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And then I need to find out, and the Queen of Heaven. Who is the Queen of Heaven?
Our Lady.
Yeah, and she's the Queen of Heaven. Okay.
Normally, she is referred to as the Queen of Heaven.
Okay. Is that the
Double
Mary? Is that Mary?
check.
Mhm.
Mary, yeah. We double check. Yeah. Yeah, the Virgin Mary.
Okay. Bernard names himself having sounded like a lyric poet of Dante's youthful acquaintance, talking about his lady, associate himself not with Giovanna, Elagia, or as Selvagia, but with the Blessed Virgin Mary. This is Hollander. I'm reading Hollander. Everything about this moment comes as a surprise. We did not anticipate a new guide in the poem. if Dante surely decided that he wanted to have a chance to bid farewell to Beatrice as well as to present her as being back in bliss. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that thought about the student being ready to be his or her own guide. That's very, that's good.
Yeah, it's nice, right? This is
Yeah.
the students one really remembers.
Mhm.
Okay. I think Hollander has a very nice note concerning lines 103 to 105, where he says that Veronica.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is Hollander's note. This long but essential simple simile links Dante once again with the pilgrim arriving at his destination, in this case, Rome, where the Veronica, a most holy relic, was preserved. Veronica was supposedly a woman of Jerusalem who offered Jesus a cloth, sudarium, to wipe the blood and sweat from his face on the way to Calvary. His features remained on the cloth, which was eventually taken to St. Peter's in Rome, where it was displayed to the faithful on certain occasions. That her name was actually Veronica is doubtful, since her name itself means true likeness. Vera, which would be true, icona, which of course is image. The whole history of this image and of other relics like it, particularly the Shroud of Turin, is controversial. But for Dante, there was not even a question of its authenticity. And I'll stop reading the note there.
Yeah, so it's really the cloth that is the Veronica, not the person whose cloth it was.
Yeah, it's as he who peradventure from Croatia cometh to gaze at our Veronica, who through its ancient fame is never sated. And I assume that Croatia was a long way from Rome.
Exactly.
So that's a long pilgrimage. Yes, you're right. So in line 104, come to gaze at our Veronica.
Veronica.
So at our true image.
It's just the cloth.
It's just the cloth. It's not actually.
Yeah, the lines are just a little earlier are just what you were saying about the student, starting with 79. Should I read that?
70. Sure.
79. Okay.
Okay, so he is talking to Beatrice. O Lady, thou in whom mine hope is strong, and who for my salvation didst endure in hell to leave the imprint of thy feet, of whatsoever things I have beheld as coming from thy power and from thy goodness, I recognize the virtue and the grace that from a slave has brought me unto freedom. by all those ways, by all the expedients whereby thou hadst the power of doing it. Preserve toward me thy magnificence, so that this soul of mine, which thou hast healed, pleasing to thee, be loosened from the body. So that to me says just what you said about the student.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then it's very sweet. The next three lines. Thus I implored, and she so far away. This is 91 through 93. So far away, smiled as it seemed, and looked once more at me. Then unto the eternal fountain turned. So that's really beautiful there, because of course that's what a teacher is supposed to do. Teach the student and let them go and go back to their, the student goes on, continues on their path, and the teacher goes back, maybe to look for another student.
Mhm. Yeah, this is a different kind of challenge from the other cantos. It's delineating of the top of paradise.
Mm-hmm. This canto is relatively clear, but like I say, I think the clearness comes partially because Dante was kind of in a little bit of conflict in some of the previous cantos between his pursuit of paradise and his love of Beatrice.
Yeah.
But in this canto, she makes it clear this is over.
Mhm.
We recognize each other, but I'm no longer your teacher. This is done. And so I think he becomes less conflicted about it all. And he can focus more on the actual situation in a more, how do I say it, defined and clear way.
Mhm. Yes.
I also really like the lines 112 through 114, where Bernard is,
Advising him to look up and not down anymore.
yeah, yeah. Thou son of grace, this jocund life began. He will not be known to thee by keeping ever thine eyes below here on the lowest place.
It's such impressive poetry. He's writing poetry about what he's doing. It's kind of some kind of poetic genius, of course, which he had. kind of a funny kind of imagery where the angels are
Different, yeah. I was just reading that.
further down the sports and songs playing.
I'm going to have to go.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No need to be
I
sorry.
catch up.
The hour is getting late. And we've accomplished quite a bit today. So perhaps when we gather again, we might want to take a little bit of a look at this and then proceed on to, and I will say this, at least Canto 32. Does that sound good?
Yeah,
Okay. Really
Okay.
good.
Sheila, Dee Dee, would you be kind enough to remind us that was our plan
okay.
when we meet
gonna-
together next week?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna look and see if Carolina has any help here. She's very writing in a very challenging way about all of this.
Yeah, I'm telling you, actually, I went through, I think 29, 30, 31, her lectures.
Oh, wow.
And I usually do, her lectures usually last an hour and a half to 2 hours. And so I just do go through one canto at a time, which is roughly 45 minutes to an hour. And I even break that sometimes into pieces. I try and do one of those a day. And she's very clear,
Yeah, very
very,
dense,
very interesting.
really interesting.
Mhm. So I always recommend her, and then I always look at her commentaries when I can. I should not say always.
Yeah,
The truth of the
finding
matter,
time.
I don't always, but yeah. Okay,
Thank
John,
you.
I hope you're right and that you can join us next time.
I'm expecting to.
Good.
Okay, okay.
I'm planning to
All right.
be
Thank
here
you.
now, at least until we finish this, but I
Okay,
hope
we're
for a
getting
longer period
close,
than
and
that.
I have a feeling that Dee Dee's going to have the whip out saying, "Oh, I think we should
Yeah.
go on to Canto 33."
You're right. I want to, I'm really looking forward to reading it, being as informed as I am now about what I'm
Mhm,
getting into at the beginning of it.
mhm, mhm.
Not that
Okay.
I'm brilliantly informed, but I know more.
Yeah,
Would-
right.
Would it be okay for me to invite a new person to the group?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I don't know what happened to Gabriella. She may come back too.
life is busy.
There's somebody I've known since my freshman year in college. And since I think because he and I were the nerdiest guys in the
Mhm.
dorm, we
Mm-hmm.
sort of found each other.
Okay. Does your friend have any knowledge of Dante at all, or would this be coming in fresh?
He'd be coming in probably fairly fresh.
Okay.
Probably the kind of knowledge that anybody with a liberal art. He was a philosophy major, but he became a lawyer. So the kind of knowledge any educated person has, but not
Okay.
somebody who's actually delved into it.
Okay. All right. Well, it would be interesting if he or she comes, what their reaction will be,
Oh, yeah.
starting in at this late stage.
Yeah, I may wait until we begin again.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
As you will. You'll make the
if he
call on
wants
that
to.
one. Okay. I'm gonna